There's a race for president of the United States. The current sitting president is running for re-election. 3.5 months from the election, he decides not to run. The sitting vice president then takes the mantle, running against a former president of the United States who had been running for 10 years with 107 days.
People didn't used to get sick of the candidates because you barely ever saw them unless you happened to be standing at the back end of a train. But now we never stop seeing them. The winner in modern elections comes down to who we're less tired of.
Bill Maher just unloaded on Kla Harris, and the whole thing played out like savage political comedy. The outspoken host tore into Harris's muddled message and her ongoing disconnect from everyday voters. His critique wasn't just sharp, it was brutally funny and delivered with that trademark Maher bite. You really need to see it to appreciate how intense it was.
When Joe Biden was still hanging on to be the candidate, many of the pundits said that to switch him out this late would cause chaos. Yeah, that was never my position. And indeed, what happened was Kamla Harris said, "Oh, look, I guess it's my turn." And the next day, a grateful nation handed her $500 million. The only reason we stay stuck in permanent campaign mode is money. It's estimated this year that $16 billion will be spent on political ads. It's time we admit that the endless campaign exists only to enrich advertisers, political consultants, and what's left of the news media.
The Democratic Party never fully grasped the risks when they pushed Kla Harris to the front of the 2024 ticket. The disaster began long before her nomination crystallized. Biden refused to bow out early, and party leaders clung to him until his catastrophic debate performance forced them into crisis mode. When Harris was thrust forward, strategists tried to patch the damage with a massive flood of donor cash, hoping an avalanche of funding would compensate for the turmoil. But it barely made a dent. The money didn't repair the messaging failures, it didn't calm voter doubts, and it didn't rebuild trust. In the end, it looked more like a last-minute gamble with no real path to holding on to the presidency.
And the fact that we're just getting to know Kamala isn't bad, it's great. Great for her, great for the country. People didn't used to get sick of the candidates because you barely ever saw them unless you happened to be standing at the back end of a train. But now we never stop seeing them. The winner in modern elections comes down to who we're less tired of. They're just constantly on us. TV, radio, the mail, on our phones, texting. Hey, Bill, Tim Walz here. You up? They're everywhere all the time. Jesus Christ, off. Let mommy put her purse down.
Maher then responds to Harris supporters who argue she never had enough time for voters to truly get to know her. Maher isn't buying that, and honestly, it's a weak excuse. Harris controlled almost $500 million, an absurd sum in modern politics. She blasted out ads nonstop, partnered with celebrities, and staged polished events across the country. High-profile influencers amplified her campaign daily. Her face and messaging were everywhere, arguably too much. People weren't unfamiliar with her. They were exhausted by her. As Maher points out, the issue wasn't visibility. It was that voters grew tired of the branding long before ballots were cast.
Vice President Harris, in her new book, said it was, quote, recklessness for former President Biden's allies to leave the decision about running for re-election up to him and his family. Do you agree with her? Was it recklessness?
Look, I wasn't there, Kristen, on this, and I think the president, again, got us through COVID, ushered us through, brought the economy back from the edge. I think there's question about this, and I want to be very clear. On me talking about the MRI, ageism is a real thing. Ableism is a real thing that we need to be careful of with people, and I think Donald Trump made a cottage industry out of attacking Joe Biden's competency, and it seemed like that got reported a lot.
And then we see yet another pivot and dodge routine. When asked a simple question, Tim Walz slipped around it like he was trying out for an Olympic evasiveness event. Kla Harris had already made her position clear. She blamed Biden's inner circle, saying they left everything up to him and his family. In her view, they should have intervened earlier to prevent the eventual political meltdown. She believes Biden's hesitation played a major role in the downfall. Instead of addressing that head-on, Walz tried redirecting the conversation toward Donald Trump, as if Trump somehow choreographed the Democrats' internal confusion. It's textbook deflection and a convenient way to avoid acknowledging that the real mistakes were made inside their own camp.
Now, whether that decision should have been made sooner, history will determine that. What I do know is that going forward, we need somebody in office who's actually going to tackle the things Americans need, whether it's about costs or whether it's about our national security needs and honoring those with our allies. And I think maybe there's a lesson to be learned from what happened with President Biden. If that's the case, it should certainly be applied right now to this president who is putting Americans at risk, is reckless, and is not doing what he's asked to do.
And here comes the familiar reflex, bringing up Trump even when the topic has nothing to do with him. But did you notice the subtle slip in Walz's answer? While he took a predictable jab at Trump, he also quietly criticized Biden. His comment about learning from Biden wasn't praise. It implied Biden mishandled the transition and lingered far too long. It echoed what many Democrats have been saying. Biden's slow decision-making contributed to the mess. So while Walz attempted to distract with a Trump mention, he accidentally reinforced the exact critique Harris and others have been making for months.
Former Vice President Kamla Harris has left the door open to potentially run for office again. Do you still think she's the strongest person to run for president in 2028?
Well, I'm glad she's out there, and I'm glad a whole lot of other people are out there, because I think Donald Trump sucks up so much oxygen. We need to have the Democratic Party out on the field, the broad, inclusive Democratic Party, talking about making life more affordable, talking about protecting freedoms, and I think Kamala Harris does a wonderful job with that. If she chooses to run, that betters all of us. We will have the process, we'll go through. I'm sure there'll be a lot of folks throw their hat into the ring, but that's good, and we need to make sure that we're providing the alternative that America's asking for.
This makes it painfully clear why Harris selected Tim Walz as her running mate. He mirrors her tendency to sidestep direct questions and avoid firm commitments. When asked a straightforward question about whether Harris would be a strong 2028 candidate, he couldn't bring himself to say yes. That non-answer reveals plenty. It suggests he either doubts her chances or knows the party is eyeing a different future contender. I'm inclined toward the former. Harris's 2024 defeat severely damaged her political standing, and insiders have hinted she'd be a shaky pick for 2028. Walz understood this. His reluctance wasn't politeness. It was a quiet signal that the party is preparing to move beyond her.
And I think she had a message last year that I'm proud of. I think, did it break through enough? Obviously not, but it's still a message that works, making sure that America is affordable for all, people feel included, and we tackle the toughest problems.
And that leads directly into Maher's main point. Most Americans never connected with Kla Harris because her messaging rarely touched the real concerns people face daily. It wasn't a visibility issue. She had endless interviews, speeches, and national moments. But instead of clear, grounded communication, she often drifted into circular comments and puzzling phrasing. Instead of inspiration, people got confusion. Maher's argument cuts deeper. Communication isn't about talking, it's about landing with your audience. Harris's speeches sounded scripted, distant, and often filled with empty lines meant to sound profound but ended up incoherent. Eventually, voters just stopped trying to interpret her. When a politician's words feel like riddles, the public checks out. And that's exactly what happened.
What was the primary reason, do you think, that you lost?
There are many factors, I think, that played into the outcome of that election. But I think probably one of the biggest in my mind is we just didn't have enough time.
We didn't have enough time.
We didn't have enough time.
Oh, yeah.
And, one of the reasons I wrote the book is this is unprecedented. Think about this.
Yeah.
That there's a race for president of the United States. The current sitting president is running for re-election. 3.5 months from the election, he decides not to run. The sitting vice president then takes the mantle, running against a former president of the United States who had been running for 10 years with 107 days.
Critics now see Harris as someone constantly reshaping her narrative based on whatever serves her campaign in the moment. Her claim that Donald Trump had the edge as a former president doesn't hold up under scrutiny. She was the sitting vice president, which carries enormous influence and visibility. If being an established figure matters, she had that advantage too. The irony deepens considering how Democrats spent years going after Trump with investigations, lawsuits, and relentless political firestorms that define the national conversation. They mocked him, attacked his judgment, labeled him a threat, and painted his supporters as dangerous. For Harris to now argue Trump had an unfair advantage feels hollow. It's another version of shifting blame rather than examining her own strategic failures.
Another piece of what is unprecedented and a bit historical about that race, it is the closest presidential race in the 21st century in terms of the outcome.
Wow.
The closest.
Say that again, because he likes to say over and over again he's got a mandate.
And that's part of why I wrote this book, because history will talk about this race. It is part of American history. And it was important to me that when history is written, that my voice be present.
Sometimes you have to wonder what exactly the crowd hears before applauding Harris, because she rarely delivered anything concrete. But ultimately, Trump's 2024 win wasn't driven by big speeches. It was driven by results and voter frustration. He secured 312 electoral votes to Harris's 226 and, for the first time in 20 years, won the national popular vote. More importantly, the demographics shifted. Exit polls showed him gaining ground with multiple minority groups and drawing support from voters frustrated by inflation and an unstable economy. His victory symbolized a rejection of rising costs, political chaos, and dissatisfaction with current leadership. Harris couldn't connect, clarify, or persuade. No amount of celebrity backing or polished optics could save a message that lacked coherence. Meanwhile, Trump tapped into economic anxiety, cultural fatigue, and shifting coalitions to deliver a decisive win. His return wasn't just a victory, it was a referendum on the country's direction. And that wraps up today's video. If you enjoyed the breakdown, hit like and subscribe for more.